What's up, my friends? I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Jack Veltri. We are live from the scene of the crime, and today, on this beautiful Saturday afternoon, the crime, the Gamecocks, falling just a smidge short of pulling off what would have been a mammoth upset of the Auburn Tigers, who are now presumably the #1 team in the nation once the poll comes back out this next week. But Jack, final score, Auburn 66, South Carolina 63. A lot of things to take away from this game. Colin Murray-Boyles goes nuts. Arden Conyers gave you some fantastic minutes. Benjamin Bosmans-Verdonk gave you some fantastic minutes. Janai Broome, the potential Naismith Player of the Year, significant ankle injury at one point in this game too. Who knows what his status is? There are a lot of storylines that we could start with. Where do you want to start, Jack? So I will give you your pick of the Auburn South Carolina topic, because this game did provide a lot of those.
This game was awesome. It was a very entertaining game. I think I want to start probably right at the end, where South Carolina, honestly, in the final 5 minutes of that game, it's going to be kind of like swept under the rug considering everything that happened today. But it's a storyline nonetheless. South Carolina went the last 5 minutes of this game without a single point, and that is kind of a tough pill to swallow considering how well you played in this game.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that this game kind of came down to free throws at the end, and look, Nick Pringle at the line, he hadn't been shooting great today, but overall in the season, his numbers have been respectable enough to where it's like you can take your chances with him at the free throw line, but unfortunately he missed both free throws in a 64-63 game. I mean, that is pretty much the difference, because it allowed Auburn to get the ball back and go down, hit 2 clutch free throws.
Yeah, that's when I go back and watch this game, try to chart really those last several possessions in that last 5 minutes. And I will say one thing Bruce Pearl mentioned after the game was how well Dylan Cardwell and Chaney Johnson were able to play one-on-one against Colin, because I think that's where this game was mostly played, one-on-one in the post. We had some big boy basketball being played between Janai Broome and Colin Murray-Boyles. And look, Colin, 25 points, 7 rebounds, 3 of those were offensive, 2 assists, and look, he did it all. Once the ball got in his hands, there was a lot of one-on-ones because Auburn was not going to help off. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest differences in how we've seen Colin played, right? Mississippi State loves to trap. They love to pressure you like that. Alabama love to throw extra defenders over at Colin and try to make him or force him to turn the ball over. Today, Auburn just went straight up one-on-one. Janai Broome, Dylan Cardwell, whoever it was, a lot of one-on-one, and Colin just straight up won a lot of those battles off the bounce. And I thought that was a huge difference in them being able to score with Auburn in that first half.
He did. You could see the physicality and aggressiveness this team overall was playing with right out of the gate. Kind of similar to the Alabama game, just ramped up a little bit. But CMB specifically really went straight to the basket. I mean, you could see, I think, on his first few possessions with the ball in his hands, he's going straight to the rim and making big plays. And even against a guy like Janai Broome, who's kind of had his number a little bit since last year with the SEC tournament and stuff, CMB really held his own today and played well. Now, I know the second half wasn't as standout as the first, because he had 18 in the first half, 7 points in the second half, but still, South Carolina is nowhere near in this game if it's not for Colin and the way he played today. And again, that just speaks to, we've talked about it all year long, how much of an impact that guy makes. When he's able to get going, I think the rest of this team kind of follows suit. And when he struggles, the rest of the team kind of follow suit.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that he was playing well today. It makes a big difference going forward.
I think today really proved kind of like credence to a thought that I've had ever since the beginning of the year, is that when you get into SEC play, rarely will you be the better, more talented team, but there will be games in which you have the better player, better star, best player on the floor on your team in Colin Murray-Boyles, because when he's engaged and he's playing like that, he is one of the better players in the SEC, and there'll be games where you'll have the best player on the floor when he's locked in and aggressive like that too. I think that's the biggest thing. Colin was way more aggressive in driving to the basket, drawing fouls, and doing so when the game was still very much at reach, unlike kind of what happened in that Alabama and Mississippi State games. But man, that's just my thing with Colin. Man, he puts puts the ball on the floor and he drives to the basket the way he did. He forces contact, initiates it, and then scores off of offensive rebounds. He can be a one-man offense for you, and that can be a great equalizer in games like this.
Definitely, and especially considering you're down 2 starters right now, and you mentioned it before. You had a lot of guys that had to play a little bit more minutes today. Colin doing what he's doing, you can win with the way he plays basketball.
You can beat some good teams with the way he plays basketball.
Let's just address the elephant in the room. I know South Carolina's off to an 0-3 start, and I know times are tough, but this team is in a lot better position today Now that you got CMB going, you hope it kind of carries over into this road trip you got coming up. And if he's able to continue to play like he has, it doesn't need to be 25 points every game, but if it's anywhere near that and the other guys up around him step up, like Arden Conyers had a great game today.
He was awesome.
He hit some really clutch shots.
Played great defense.
Yes, like South Carolina got clutch minutes from a lot of different guys today. Yes, Collins the main guy, but other guys stepped up too. So if you're able to get that moving forward, you will win some SEC games. Auburn just happens to be the best team in the nation right now, and teams like that are going to be able to find ways to prevail. So South Carolina is not all the way there yet, obviously, but you feel a lot better about where they're at now versus last week out in Starkville.
Well, I think what today showed, too, is you went toe-to-toe with the best team in college basketball. Toe-to-toe with them, and you made them sweat. Auburn didn't come here. They didn't just walk into CLA and dominate. Jack Veltri, they walked into CLA and survived their trip to CLA. That's how close it was for them to not end up being number one come next week. You stood toe-to-toe with them, and your best player was the best player on the floor, and I think you saw a blueprint of how you can win a lot of games. I think now we're finally seeing the best of the Colin Murray-Boyles-Nick Pringle pairing, because defensively those guys were all over Broome and Cardwell, and they really won the matchup. Like if you want to talk about like the star forward matchup or forward pairings, they really won that game. But South Carolina falls just a little bit short. It's college basketball can be weird, right? Because a team can go on the road and survive a game, and a team can play like South Carolina, play really well, lose just by a little bit, and they don't carry the momentum over. Maybe you think, like mentally, like that happens. You go back on the road, and then the opposite result happens. What you think is going to happen? Vanderbilt is better than last year. They're significantly improved, but it's not Auburn, right?
No.
Can you get yourself up and avoid losing on the road in a game in which will be one of your more gettable games in the SEC play? I think that's a big thing moving forward.
And the good news is you have, they're going to take tomorrow off, and then you don't travel to Nashville until, I'm assuming, Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night you would travel, but the game's not till Wednesday. So you have a few days here to kind of reset, get your mind right, work on. The good news is you were able to do a lot of good things today that you can build off of moving forward. Like, it makes it a lot easier to look at now through 3 games. South Carolina doesn't have as many problems as they did at the start of SEC play. Like, they showed today they can go out here and compete. The thing is, like you said, Elijah, and it's probably better that, and I'm not saying it's better that they lost, but I think it makes it easier to be like, okay, we can go out here and go get a win next week out at Nashville, as opposed to getting the big upset,
gettable game,
getting the big upset win today. If they had gotten it, and then it's like, all right, they might have the hangover effect. But I think with this team, they're still going to be grinding, I think, and trying to get that first SEC win. I think they're going to be able to, just because it's a lot better matchup from just it's not Auburn, essentially. So you have a better chance on that alone.
Absolutely. Well, a lot to get into for this game here this week, starting on Monday, 6 a.m., the early game. Jen, Bill, Preston, we'll have plenty of thoughts on this game right here. I know Jack and Tyler are going to have some thoughts after that, and of course, myself and Jay Phillips in the afternoon. We're excited to be able to take your calls, because I think there's a lot of reason for optimism in a game like this. Yes, you lost, but you went toe-to-toe with one of the nation's best, and you proved that you belong. You proved that you can probably steal one of these games. I think that, but as long as you carry that momentum over, that's the big thing. That's what makes the game in Nashville against Vanderbilt a pretty significant one, to avoid going 0-4 and seeing and proving, too, that you can build on that success. But we'll take your calls, 803-404-6100, starting Monday morning. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Jack Veltri. As always, live from the scene of the crime. We'll see you Monday.